Welcome to the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, where we explore the impact of EdTech on the student experience with engaging, fun, and relevant conversations that honor the wide range of work happening all across the higher ed ecosystem. I'm your host, Dustin Ramsdell. I've been working in and around higher ed for the past decade, focused on student support and digital experience. Join me every week for discussions with some of the best minds in education technology. We'll be bringing you their perspectives on how digital transformation is reshaping the way we recruit, engage, and graduate learners. You'll hear firsthand accounts of how institutional leaders are developing their strategy, as well as get deeper on the stories of how these EdTech tools are being built to foster better student outcomes. With that, let's get to today's episode. Welcome, everyone, to another super special live episode of the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, recorded live here at the Engage Summit in Charlotte. If you're following along with all of our episodes, this is our final one here. We're about midway through the second day of sessions. So I've had some great conversations so far. And, I've been trying to kind of curate with these episodes at this summit, just a lot of different kind of people that I feel like I don't really get exposure to. So speaking now with Kathryn and Tanya from the South Carolina Commission on Higher Education. So if you both want to briefly introduce yourselves and kind of your background, what you do, and then we'll get on with the rest of our conversation.
Great. Yeah. Hi, I am Tanya Weigold. I am a program coordinator at the South Carolina Commission on Higher Education. I have a master's in business administration from Adams State University in a very small town in Alamosa, Colorado. I started my career in TRIO with Student Support Services and Upward Bound. I've been a director of campus life at two different universities in Virginia, and now I have been with the Commission for 7 years working with state scholarships and grants.
Sure. My name is Kathryn Harris, and I work with the South Carolina Commission on Higher Education. I have spent my career focused on access, equity, and student support across the educational spectrum. So I've done everything from outreach to policy work. I have a background in education. I've served in roles supporting both students and institutions, particularly in areas like financial aid, strategic planning, and stakeholder engagement.
Great. Well, and before we get too far as well here, because I think, states across our country, I think all have kind of different shapes and forms of maybe how they kind of facilitate their public higher education system. So if either of you or both of you want to just kind of give kind of the brief explanation of what the South Carolina Commission does for higher education, just so folks kind of, we all kind of have the same baseline here.
We're a coordinating body for our public institutions. Our particular area, we work in student affairs. So we work with the state scholarships and grants. So we have the Hope, Life, Palmetto Fellows, Lottery Tuition Assistance, South Carolina Need-Based Grant. We work with students who have lost their scholarships due to extenuating circumstances across the state. So we have a scholarship appeals process. We have scholarship enhancements for students who are majoring in STEM and education fields. And so we at the commission are going out and doing workshops to educate families about state scholarships and aids. We work with college staff on how to administer the state scholarships. And then we work with continuing students who are in college, helping provide them resources so they can keep it. I think one of the other things that we do in our area is college access programs. So we have other staff who are working directly with high school students across the state to inform them on their educational opportunities. And so we have a 3-step program that we have called College Application Month. So all the high schools around the state host events on applying for colleges. And so we work with the admission reps around the state to attend those events. And it's not a recruiting event. They're just coming to help students apply for college. And then the second step is our college goal, where we work with financial aid staff, and they come help students complete the FAFSA, because that's always intimidating and a barrier for families. And then last, we celebrate. So we have the College and Career Decision Day event. 2,000 students come downtown South Carolina, march down Main Street. The governor usually says a few words, and they celebrate. So we do a lot for students around the state.
Yeah, and it's really great because I think in my mind, maybe, and again, with it being different in different states, there may be a bit more of a passivity and it's just kind of transactional or something, but it sounds like you all are very active in kind of the community of your institutions, and that convener and kind of maybe sharing kind of best practices, or at least if anything else, just making sure that the system and the processes are kind of going smoothly and everything. So that's really great to hear. But as I said, we're kind of nearing the end of the Engage Summit, unfortunately, as of recording this episode. What have you been excited that you've heard, that you've seen, any just noteworthy kind of things from the event that you can kind of reflect on with us?
The thing I was most excited about was seeing how AI was being instituted on campuses in different areas, how they were making it work, how it was being applied. When you start talking about the AI platform, there's a lot of negative perceptions to that, right? And so those negative perceptions can feel a little overwhelming. So I think this is a great opportunity to look at AI and look at the positive side of it so we can reimagine how we best support students. And so being able to be in the environment and seeing how other campuses are doing things has definitely tickled parts inside Tanya and I's brains on how we can take those home and work to help so we can support more South Carolinians faster and more efficient.
Yeah, yesterday I was really excited about all the Bolt agent workshops. That's all I did yesterday was attend those. And Katie and I left one of the sessions just like energized. We do a lot at CHE, but we are a small staff. There are 3 of us who are managing the state scholarship and grant programs. And so I just think these Bolt agents, the AI, is really going to help us be more efficient and reach more students in a timely fashion, especially after hours, right? Like we want to meet students where they're at, and I am not at work at 10 p.m. So it's great if someone such as our Bolt agent can answer that phone call for them and give them the information that they want right now.
Well, yeah, and I think just that idea, for all intents and purposes, the Bolt agents, like how a lot of people would like interface with them, it's just like a chatbot, but it's just like amplifying it to just like, the nth degree of like, that if something happens, it can kind of complete a whole bunch of like kind of subsequent actions versus it just being like, hey, I need this. And it's like, okay, I'll send it to the person that can address that or whatever. It's like, it could just like be done and dealt with of like, cool. Yeah. You gave me that form or you filled something out or you did some sort of action. And then many things can happen from there. So yeah, just that efficiency and the kind of on demand, the super responsiveness, the accessibility and all those sort of things. 'Cause I think like, there can be, unfortunately, those circumstances where just like a lot of good intentions of like, oh, we have all these scholarships and this, that, the other, but like they just get so like stuck up in the gears of, appropriate bureaucracy and sort of like, reviews and, those are the things. But yeah, so I think just that mindset, at least, just like how can, you use something like a Bolt agent or anything like that, like these kind of digital platforms to just be like, we're trying to support people to get access to higher education and, all those circumstances when people are just like earnestly trying to figure out how to fill out a FAFSA or whatever else. It's like, we should do as much as we can to try to help facilitate that process versus just like, oh, sorry, you couldn't figure it out. Like, sorry about it. Like, it's like being very active in that process is really great to hear. Yeah,
exactly.
So I guess something I'm curious on, like with this event, obviously being about AI and, Kathryn, you're sort of alluding to that sort of like, dissuading kind of some like, notions about AI and everything. Like, how are you all as like the commission, like, are you trying to help like your institutional leader? Like, cause you may be kind of like having this sort of kind of process of sort of like, oh, it's great how they're sort of like speaking about AI and kind of, addressing and everything. Like, are you with your convening in the commission helping others at institutions across the state kind of have that same kind of experience of sort of like acclimating and kind of maybe try to dissuade some of their skepticism or anything? Or like, how's that worked for you all?
I'm going to say yes, because we have currently, and so this is probably the question we could talk the most about. So we've been on Element for 2 years now. And so we have been able to implement some of the AI in the platform to help us with, as Tanya said, we are a very small staff. And any administrative functions that we can alleviate can help us be more effective for our students. So we have been on Element for 2 years, and we are a very unique use case for Element. We are pushing every boundary within Element on how it can be used. And so just to give you an example, so Element is obviously built for like an admissions application. Yeah. We took that admissions application and we made it a state scholarship application. And instead of getting the recommendation, the recommendation for an admissions application, we are using that recommender form as a process for the high school counselor to provide the statutorily and regulatorily required documentation for the state scholarship to attach it to their application. And so that's really where we started. And then once we got in there, it was like, okay, we'll do Scholarship Appeals app. We have our state transfer applications. We are running all of our college access events through. So what would normally be appointments for admissions or an advisor on campus, we are using those with the high school counselors to set events for college application events, FAFSA culmination events, and our career decision day rally. We've also started doing some continuing ed credits for high school counselors that we use the system for. So we've been very much supported by Element and their team, and how we say, okay, can we do this? And they're like, yes, but let me think how we can do this. And then they plumb back and like vet this system. So we are using AI elements agency-wide, and that is allowing us to better support the institutions because we are supporting the students faster and more effectively. In terms of meeting with the institutions, we are both in student affairs. So our primary focus is the students. And so that's not necessarily our area, but we've been very transparent with our institutional partners about what we are using AI for and how it's helping us. So I would still answer yes to that in a peripheral, inappropriate way.
Well, yeah, and even as just like a quick reaction to that, because I think it's like, that is part of sort of normalizing is just the transparent of like, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, and why we're doing it the way we're doing it. And then just kind of being like, this sort of beacon, the like role model, the sort of like, example that people can see to kind of make some of this stuff real. I think that's part of it, because like you could go to sessions, and offerings like this, but it's like, that's sometimes like the noise and all that. It's like, if you can be like, oh, well, no, yeah, the, person I speak to all the time, they're using it in their like day-to-day work, these processes that happen, frequently. So that, yeah, that normalization and everything is really cool. Yeah.
I've met with 3 new people and they've said, your name has come up because there's been a discussion about Element. And so we could talk to anybody anywhere for an unlimited amount of time about Elements. Yeah.
And I think just another kind of just curiosity on my part of like kind of having this opportunity to speak with you both, like, has the nature of your work of like convening with these institutions and being of support to them, at the state level, like, have those dynamics changed, I guess, in the sense of like, I think just institutions across the country are just sort of like, kind of feeling the heat on their neck of just like, the enrollment cliff, or just like changing demands and preferences of modality or academic, programs and stuff. Like, how's the nature of your work, or just maybe the climate, the vibes, like kind of changed over the past few years? Anything that you can speak to? Because I think just like this sort of active collaboration, whatever form or shape it takes, I think for me is just so crucial. So I'm just curious maybe how like the dynamics have kind of changed for you all from your perspective.
It's helped us collaborate a lot, the technology, right? So we collect a lot of data from all of our institutions so that we can help monitor those enrollment cliffs and students who are not retaining, and try to provide resources to help with that. And so, with Element and the AI helping us be more efficient, we're able to, the institutions can now upload data to us directly, and I have access to it, and they're able to upload more information to us than they were before. And so that's been very helpful. And then I think, as you mentioned, like all of our institutions are stretched thin, right? They are working with as little as they can, and trying to do as much as they can with it. And so having like the Bolt agents on our website, they can direct all the families to CHE when students have questions. And so that's been really helpful for, I think, our institutions to be like, you know what, that answer is there, go ask them. And so it's helping their staff too. So even though they don't have it directly on their campus, they're able to use us as a resource to kind of help alleviate some of that workload.
I think the one thing I would add to that is I think we could always use more collaboration. In our current climate is very challenging, and I don't think it's realistic to have the institutions handle it individually. I think that they can do much better collaborating. And so we are trying, as an agency, we are trying to facilitate that. But I can tell you, the University of South Carolina announced just this week their agreement with ChatGPT. So there are strides happening in the state. And so we're super excited to see those and hope that it's just the beginning.
Yeah, and that's just good timing on that announcement for our sake here for this conversation, because I think, that idea of knowing that like, the institutions in South Carolina would hopefully be able to kind of like, show their work and collaborate and kind of like, compare notes or something, with something like that being utilized at like a big, institutional player, there. Because in the absence of it, it would be like, okay, cool, yeah. Then like nobody else in the state would benefit because it's just like, kind of happening in isolation. Like you need to have these sort of networks that can like kind of bring people together on a regular basis, or just like have people feel like, okay, we're all kind of on the same team here. Like let's kind of, support each other. And I think just with like what you're saying too, I think like around like the data piece and stuff too, just like having like not just anecdotal notions about like why things are happening or what scale things are happening, because people might just like from whatever their vantage point is feel like things are, maybe better or worse than they actually are. But if it's just like, okay, if we actually get the data in here and can look at it, we can say, okay, like these students are retaining more than these ones. And we can maybe start to like, have that be kind of the basis of how we're building our strategy versus it just being kind of, anecdotal things and stuff like that. So I think even, that idea of like realizing that you have such a strong position to play to help facilitate those things easier. And that is like, I think in this climate, that much more important than it might have been a few years ago or something. So,
and that's what I got energized about yesterday. There's so much potential for outreach for these students, right? So we have the data. We know one of our state scholarships has a 50% retention rate. If we can get them into our system, we can start doing outreach to those students early. We can send them the information that they need, and that can also help alleviate, some work on the colleges. So we want to collaborate and work together and help the students ultimately, and that's where we need to meet them, is where they are. And I think AI is where they are. It's not the future; it's here, and we need to adapt.
That was already like a great piece of advice. It's like my final question here. So if there's other sort of final thoughts, advice, coming from this event or just generally, from your unique kind of vantage point, like what advice would you give to other higher ed leaders who are listening right now, trying to navigate this moment?
I would say for us, it was stay open, stay collaborative, and stay student focused. And so everything we tried to do with how we implemented, we leaned on our network. We were very open about our transparency, what we were doing, how we were doing it. And then we were not afraid to experiment, obviously within guardrails. However, you have to take a stab at it. And the first time may not be right. You make an adjustment, you try it again. And so that would be the advice that I would have.
I would say, stick with it and hang in there. Like Katie had to fight a very uphill battle to get the technology. And now that we have it, everybody's praising it. But she spent years fighting a battle. And so you just have to kind of stick with it. If you know this is what's best for your institution, for your students, for your leadership, just hang in there. Stick with it.
Because, I think that idea of like change is hard, but like this moment, and, you just kind of have to get in the right mindset, like, can be that opportunity of like, we're at, maybe kind of at the end of our rope, we're going to get in, dire straits here. So we've got to do something to be able to kind of pivot and adjust and evolve and change and transform. So I think that idea of, sticking with it. And even just like for me, like, it's like starting somewhere. It could be that like, in your instance, it's like, well, we're not going to get every institution using a tool necessarily, like, but we could use it and we can start sort of like building our expertise to support other institutions that might want to pursue something similar or whatever. And that's like a great place to start and to kind of, just like kind of advocate for that you all were able to kind of see that opportunity and pursue it. So just really appreciate both of you for sharing all that you did, giving some time here for the great work that you do, ways to for folks to kind of explore the commission in the show notes and stuff and connect with you both. But just thank you all so much for your time.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Geek podcast. This show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly in your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.